was the Vice President, Senior Business Relationship Manager. I went to work for HSBC Bank back in January 14th, 2008. Job involved reviewing, helping businesses manage their business life.
So as a relationship manager, did you have to access the accounts in the computer system of the bank?
Oh yes, I had to access the accounts, the history of the accounts. I had to know anything and everything about that account. What was it? What was the nature of their business? What they were doing? What was the funds being used for?
You then would go see these accounts, is that correct?
I would go not just see the accounts, see the account holders, the actual corporations, the actual business owners.
So you recognize that these are papers that you provided me?
Yes.
So these are papers that you pulled out of the bank's computer system, is that correct?
These are right straight from the bank's computer system.
And you pulled these because you suspected they were fraudulent transactions, is that correct?
I pulled these because I thought there were suspicious activities taking place, and these same documents I brought to senior security within the bank and my managers.
What did your managers and senior security do?
My managers told me I was crazy, didn't know what I was talking about. Told me none of my business and what goes on in transactions.
I mean,
that's my job.
This United Express, do you recognize that company?
Oh yes, I remember. Yes.
What happened when you went to visit that company?
It really wasn't a business. It was like a room in the back. And up front there was two girls sitting there with a couple little boxes and everything. This is supposed to be a shipping company that he says he does $2.something million a year in business. But in his transaction, he's doing millions upon millions of business and transactions. But they're all through PayPal and American Express. Now, companies don't pay you through PayPal $20, $30, $40, $50,000 every day.
And the when you went physically to visit this company, how many employees did they have on site?
There was 2 employees on site that did not speak English.
They didn't speak English?
No.
And was there any, this is supposed to be a packaging company, right?
Yes.
Was there any
packaging shipping company.
Any evidence of any packaging being done?
Not unless you want to say a couple small little boxes sitting in the corner. That's the only packaging that was being done.
Did you see any evidence that this company was doing several $1 million in business that the
There was no evidence to support everything, not even his accounts receivable, accounts payable, agent reports could add up to the transactions going on in his accounts.
If we look at some of the others, I mean, several of these accounts, an account here which is showing us basically a couple $100,000 coming into the account. Why don't you describe the activity there?
It doesn't say where it's going to, nothing. It's just a transaction. Now this money gets transferred out of the account. Where does it go? The bank won't explain it. The bank doesn't tell you nothing. They know exactly where it goes. They control the records. If it goes from here and it goes down to Malaysia, Brazil, Colombia, Hong Kong, okay, they know exactly where it's going because the bank owns the branches also in those countries because they're located in 80 plus countries. So they know exactly where it goes, but they won't show it. Not even to the bank employees. This is how you control an organized crime organization.
And there's money coming into this account too.
Money comes in daily, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. And this is just an example of thousands upon thousands of accounts. There's always even amounts. And it's only a partial transaction of money to, money from. And you're supposed to, if you look at a statement, you would see, well, money to, where'd it go? You would see money to another, you would see the coding, so it goes to another account number, or it has a tracking number for it's being wired out, and none of that shows on none of the accounts. Thousands and thousands of accounts, none of this shows. There are some of these businesses are based out of someone's home, where I walked into homes, and there's a couch, there's a chair, a desk. That's your business. The house is empty. A couple Mercedes sitting up front, BMWs. Where's the business? It's only online transactions of money in, money out. There is no actual business of goods taking place. There are no records. The records that were given do not coincide with the transactions on any of these accounts. You'll find Social Security numbers that are legitimate Social Security numbers being used, but the individuals that own the Social Security numbers are not the ones using the Social Security number for these transactions.
Do the individuals even know their Social Security numbers are being used?
When they do find out, an example is I sat with Senior Security at the bank, George Matranker, and an individual got a loan that never knew about it. 5% of that transaction, of that loan, went to an accounting firm that made up the fake tax returns. The other 95% of that transaction went to the manager. Now, one manager was involved in the transaction, another manager was involved in the notarizing of the transactions, and senior executives were involved where they signed off to give permission to give the loans, even if they get rejected from underwriting.
Now, John, you realize what you're saying is that bank employees, including bank security officers and fairly senior officers of the bank, are involved then in a pattern of illegal activity. Is that
That's
what you're
correct.
saying?
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I've also recorded in my voice recorders during meetings with managers, with senior security. I have hours upon hours of voice recordings of management and all, from tellers to business representatives to managers to executives. The whole system is designed to be a culture of fraud to make it look like it's a legalized system, but it's not.
Did you ever confront any of them to let them know you had taped them?
Yes.
What was their reaction?
Remember, I was tape recording my manager, Dean, and Dean turns around and says, "I don't care what you do." Maybe he didn't hear me, I don't know, but it was clear as can be on a tape that he heard me. And I believe this says, "I don't care what you do," as far as taping. And I told him about the fraudulent account, and he threw the paper back at me and it says, "I don't want to see that." I was like, wow.
Your accusations here, John, are startling. I mean, you're basically saying HSBC is operating as a criminal bank. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they are. Yes. It is a criminal organization. It's a culture of crime. I was the Vice President, Senior Business Relationship Manager. Job involved helping businesses manage their business life, manage their finances, manage their trade, manage transactions, wire transfers, checking accounts.
And John, you have written a book. Can you show us the book?
World Banking, World Fraud, Using Your Identity.
Great. Thank you. And okay, so you recognize that these are papers that you provided me?
Yes.
So these are papers that you pulled out of the bank's computer system, is that correct?
These are right straight from the bank's computer system.
And you pulled these because you suspected they were fraudulent transactions, is that correct?
I pulled these because I thought they were suspicious activities taking place, and these same documents I brought to senior security within the bank.
Now, John, you realize what you're saying is that bank employees, including bank security officers and fairly senior officers of the bank, are involved then in a pattern of illegal activity. Is that
That's
what
correct.
you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I've also recorded in my voice recorders during meetings with managers, with senior security. I have hours upon hours of voice recordings. When I reported anything, I would never report something as fraudulent activity. I would never say this is illegal. I would bring this to senior security managers to tell them this is suspicious activity. I brought this to Suffolk County District Attorneys. This is suspicious activities. I brought it to Homeland Security. It's suspicious activities. I brought it to IRS. This is suspicious activities. They're the ones who tell me, that individuals I reported to tell me, this is fraudulent activities.
And yet the bank security at HSBC did not stop the illegal activity or the suspicious activity.
According to George, his own words were, when I find...
Who's George?
George Matranger is a senior security officer of HSBC Bank. He says, "John, when I find fraud in the bank, I have to report it to my bosses, the executives in the bank. I am only allowed to report maybe 10% to law enforcement. That 10% law enforcement cannot work with because it is incomplete. That is purposely done by executives."
So the system's designed so when law enforcement gets the information, the bank has not given them enough?
Not even that. I brought this information to law enforcement, and they said they gave it back to the bank to do their own internal investigation. So it's a cycle. It's a circle. It's not going nowhere. It's going to stay in that circle until somebody breaks it.
Do you believe you were fired for bringing these suspicious accounts to the attention of the bank management and bank security?
Yes. Well, senior security, George Retringa told me I was going to get fired for this.
I mean, you should have been. Why weren't you given meritorious awards for bringing forward potentially suspicious activity?
Because this is how the bank makes money. This is how employees in the bank make money. It's a lot easier to make money off doing fraudulent transactions than it is making money off legal transactions.
John, you realize, I mean, these are serious accusations against a bank,
Yes.
major bank, HSBC, one of the major banks in the world,
Yes.
against people, and you've named the individuals in the bank.
Yes.
You realize you could be sued for libel or defamation. If your
Sue me.
statements are-
If you want to sue me, please sue me. Sue me all you want, and then bring out the proof. I will ask for every document. I will ask for a lot of documents. And I will show that I am right, and I will give every tape recording to the public on air. And they can listen to these individuals talking. WND has been great. They're the first and only news agency to put my story on the air, to put my story on the web, to put my story out to people. Well, why did it take a story to be published when they had the information prior?
And why did other news agencies not pick it up? Now, John, I received an email after we wrote some articles in WND. I received an email from Frank Di Gregorio, who I'll show you the emails here and see if you recognize them, who is an official with Homeland Security, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
In fact, I have his card
Frank
here.
Frank DiGregorio and Keith Graham Klein.
Now, I've met with these gentlemen, and have you met with these gentlemen as well, or talked to them?
I've talked to them on the phone. I've never met with them.
And did you turn over the material you have here?
Back in 2010, my attorneys from Napoli, Bibb and Burns turned over evidence to Frank.
You tape recorded conversations with federal law enforcement officers,
Yes.
including Department of Homeland Security and IRS. You did all that because you didn't believe or you were suspicious that they would take you seriously? Or why?
My biggest thing was just covering myself, and I didn't know what would happen. And you never know what's going to happen. Somebody could say, oh, you're involved. Well, no, I'm not. I reported it. Well, no, you didn't report it. And it's simple like this. I went to Homeland Security. My attorneys went to Homeland Security back in 2010. Homeland Security said my attorneys never spoke to them. They don't know who I am or nothing. They said that today. Now, no, they said that on February 7th of this year, 2012, that nobody contacted them 2 years ago. And I said to Frank, because he was saying he was calling me, he was belittling me.
Frank who? Is Frank?
Frank DiGregorio and Mr. Klein. And they would be belittling me, saying, oh, I'm a disruptive employee, I'm just here for the money, and all going on and on. And I said to him, I said, you know, they're like, why did it take you 2 years? Why did it take you 2 years, huh? And they were going on. I'm like, you know something? I'll be very happy to answer your question if you can answer me one question. And they're like, what? Frank's like, what? I go, why did it finally take you 2 years to get back to me? They're like, what are you talking about? I said, I told them, you had this information 2 years ago, and the only reason you contact me now is because the article that WorldNet Daily put out about Mexican drug cartel, about money being laundered, which was told to me that what this was by senior DAs, Pasha Okey and Jeremy Shalepi in Suffolk County. That's the only reason you're calling me now. So, what's going to happen now? And he goes, he said, well, the DA's not going to say they said that. They're not going to say that. I said, they don't have to. I recorded it. He goes,
it was only after
and he dropped the phone.
And only after I wrote the articles that they contacted you for the second set of interviews.
Yes, but that was on February 7th, and then they said they would get back to me in 2 weeks. I've never heard from them again.
Now, you've also been contacted by the IRS, is that correct?
I contacted the IRS. The IRS employees, which is David Wagner, he's a special agent, and Keith Sophia, who is a supervisory special agent.
And you met with these two gentlemen where?
I met with them in Denver, Colorado, in their office. I gave them a disc with all the documents on it, and Detective Sophia, he said to me, what would make us believe that employees would say they know about fraudulent activities going on. Because that's illegal. I said, you can listen to them on the tape. And he just looked at me and goes, you have them on tape? And I said, yes. I recorded everything. I gave them 2 discs with voice recordings on them, approximately 19, 20 hours of voice recordings of employees talking about the fraudulent activities going on, knowing the fraudulence going on. He's just like, in my whole life and career in the IRS, I have never been given so much information on a bank. I've never seen so much information. He goes, this is just mind-boggling. And they are looking into the voice recordings I gave them, documentation I gave them. And if everything shows what I told them was on the paperwork and what I showed them was on the voice recordings, they were talking about arresting employees.
I mean, you could be jeopardizing the jobs of these federal. You basically told me today.
Excuse me, I'm not jeopardizing their job. They are jeopardizing their job, but not doing their job.
And you're saying Department of Homeland Security, IRS, District Attorney's Office, Queens County, Suffolk District Attorney's Office,
Yes,
to your knowledge,
Jeremy Shalepi and Patrick Mulcahy.
You've named all these people.
Yes.
And you're calling them out and saying they aren't doing their jobs. Is
Correct.
that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, the IRS has just begun.
Okay, the IRS, let's get this clear. You've got records here of millions of dollars, potentially billions of dollars going through these accounts to Social Security numbers, and the IRS has not been paid on a penny of this. Is this correct?
That's correct.
So there's conceivably billions of dollars of tax revenue here that's not been collected.
That there's billions to trillions. I mean, there's a lot of money at stake here. We're talking a lot of money. Taxpayers.
And you're saying
Revenue.
the federal government law enforcement officers made aware of this have not taken steps immediately
Correct.
to stop this.
That is correct.